Okay, eyes. This is a tutorial on rendering eyes here. So we've talked about eyes before in the woodblock self-portrait, and there's a couple key points that we need to include in the eyes. One obviously is that center pupil. A must, an absolute must, even if they don't show it in your portrait. Like here's a portrait of Thanos, and you can't see a white spot in his eye, but I'm gonna put a white spot in that eye because it's gonna bring him to life even more. We can make our portraits look better than the printouts by applying some of these artist's tricks here. Okay, another thing you're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna try and put these little lines, these thin lines inside the eye that kind of radiate out like the sun. Okay, and then we want to darken in the top eyelashes up here, and we want to make sure that the eyelashes kind of fan outward as opposed to straight up and down. Okay, so let's do that. Let's take a piece of paper here. We're going to maybe use this eye as an example here, and I'm going to sketch that eye out here for you guys. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to make it slightly a little bigger than it is on the page here. So I'm sketching out the shape of the eye like that. Okay, inside the eye is the circular part of the eye. Now you're never going to see the full circle of the eye unless someone's kind of really doing that, like a wide-eyed, look where their eyes are kind of like popping out of their head. You're not going to see that full circle. So make sure that you're really paying attention to your picture and you're getting it accurate, because some people just kind of draw what they think they see or what their brain tells them they see, when in actuality you're not seeing that full circle there. Okay, now we got the pupil, so we're going to start with this pupil. His pupil's pretty big, so I'm going to make that pupil kind of in the center here. You can kind of go like this, and you can make like a plus across there just so you know where the center mark is going to be, and I'm going to make that pupil right about there like that. His pupil's a little bit bigger than this, but I'm going to make it about this size just because I think that this is a little bit more accurate realistically. Okay, so there's the pupil as dark as possible. Now there's 2 bits of that glare, that reflection off the eye. That reflection is just the light reflecting off the eye. So I'm going to put one right there and another one right there. Okay, after we do that, we're going to darken up this edge on the outer portion first. We can darken that up. I like to clean that up and make that look a little bit more precise and dark first. And then you're going to make your lines. Now, I like to use a mechanical pencil for this because you can make really nice, small, sharp lines, and you can make more of them. If you don't have a mechanical pencil, just make sure that you have a really sharp point on your regular pencil or your number 2 pencil that you have. Now, these lines in the inside here, a little bit lighter, and then gradually as they go to the outside, they get a little bit darker. So do that, finish up the eye. The more lines you make, the better. The less lines you make, generally speaking, the worse it looks. Okay, so you have to take your time and you have to put the necessary effort in. If you're willing to, work hard, you're going to get good results. If you're not willing to work hard, it's the same in anything you do in life. If you put in the time, you're generally going to achieve success. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with this so far. And it's actually even looking, I think it's looking even more realistic than that one so far. Okay, so just kind of filling that last little bit in here. And then my next step, which I'm going to do, is I'm just going to kind of darken this area in up here. You can see that the top eyelashes, for guys, the top eyelashes aren't going to be a lot darker, but they are definitely a little bit darker than the bottoms. Okay, so I'm darkening that in a little bit. I don't want to make it look like he's wearing makeup, but I do want to darken it in a little bit. And you can't really see eyelashes here, but I'm just going to put some small, thin, short ones in there because we know that they exist. Okay, so we're going to put some small, thin, short ones in there. Again, if you're doing an eye with like longer lashes, just kind of like bring them out a little bit like this, little by little, and then they gradually start fading upward like that. I'm going to make that eyelashes a little bit longer just for the sake of demonstration here. Even though it doesn't look like it in the picture, we're going to make them a little bit longer just so you can see that. And then as they come to the top here, they're kind of coming more straight at you and you don't see them as much. And over here, they're just like a little bit longer on the outside there. So we have the eyelashes like that. Another thing I'm going to include is the top eyelid. Okay, you gotta have that top eyelid in there. I'm not making a dark outline around it, but I do want to make sure that you can see it. Yeah, you can see it from there. So we got that. At this point too, I love to put a little bit of shadow on the eyeball itself in here. So you're pressing a little bit harder and then kind of just fading it down a little bit. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit on here for you so you can see that. Okay, so we're putting a little bit of shadow and kind of fading it down. We're working a little bit of shadow into the corner of the eye and just, again, shading towards the contour or the curvature of the eye. It's not a flat surface, it's kind of curved. So I'm putting a little shadow there. I'm putting a little shadow on the top of the eye up here too, up there. And a little bit of shadow kind of working its way into the corner here. And if you look in here, you can see a little bit of that tear duct area. So that's just, again, what I'm doing right in this range right in here. Okay, kind of going around there, shaping out that tear duct, making it a little bit darker, and then fade in a little bit lighter with that contoured, curved shading, trying to make it kind of smooth as possible, and trying to avoid streakiness. If it's too streaky, just erase it and try it again. That's the best advice I can kind of give you. I think that looks nice. I'm going to put a little bit of shading up here too as well, where the eyelid is, because there's definitely some shading up there in the eyelid area. Okay, and then finally I'll put a little bit of, this is just kind of like a little artist tip, I'll use the blending stick to just put in that bottom eyelid up there, but at the bottom, very small, and then sometimes you'll just see the slightest hint of the eyelashes on the bottom kind of coming out of there like that. But you don't have to put the eyelashes on the bottom. That's just kind of like an optional thing. I'm going to go back and I'm just going to increase a little bit of the eyelashes that you see on the top there. I'm going to put a little bit more darkness up there to increase the contrast. And I think it's looking pretty cool. Okay, you guys don't have to put this much shading in the eyeball itself. You can kind of leave a little bit more white area in there. I think that might be a little bit too much for you guys, so leave a little bit more white area in there. I don't want to make you think that you really have to shade that entire eyeball. It's actually better for you guys to probably leave it a little bit more white like that. Okay, so there is your eye. Okay, that's your eye. While we're at the eye, you know, we might as well do the eyebrow. Okay, everybody's eyebrows are going to be different shapes. This is kind of like a pretty crazy shape here, so we're going to try and follow that. Okay, you guys will have this traced out on your portrait for you. You're going to do a trace through technique, which I'll show you in a moment, but you'll be able to get this pretty accurate. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of put a light outline around the top there of where I think the eyebrow is going to be, and then again I'm going to use my mechanical pencil to pack it with as many lines as possible. Now the lines, they go straight up and down, and then they start fanning outward this way. Okay, if you make all the lines straight up and down, it's not going to look realistic. You have to pay attention to the portrait. How it looks in there is how you have to do it when you draw it. So I'm going to start out with up and down lines. Okay, and this part of the eyebrow, you know, there's not as many of them. It's a little less dense. They're a little bit lighter. And then they start gradually kind of going outward this direction. So this way to that way, out this way, and over here like that. So I'm just going to kind of follow that pattern that I just kind of set out there, pack it real tight with lines. The more lines you put, the better. Always, you hear me say it a lot of times. It's just to make sure that, you know, it's in your minds as you're doing this. You know, you really got to take your time and pay close attention to the portrait. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of finish this up with more lines, and then you know, after I get all this done, I'm probably going to go back and I'm going to try and erase that little outline that I made around the outside. Because again, dark outlines or any type of outlines you make on your portrait are going to kind of work against the realism of it. Okay, so I'm going to put a couple more little ones kind of coming out here into there. And then again, I'm going to kind of go around the edge, erase that little outline that I started with, and maybe just kind of touch it up with a little bit of line work. Okay, so we have that, and I think we got, let's zoom it out so you can see it. All right, and you know, looking fairly realistic there without tracing it or anything. All right, so that's the eye, rendering the eye.